in together. Now, obviously, as I said, I really don't remember much of my Hebrew, but I just went through the motions. I held a prayer book, and if I noticed something that I remembered, I would say it. Otherwise, I just didn't say anything, you
Right.
know. But my dad knew all that stuff. I mean, and my grandfather knew it. My grandfather knew it all by heart. Okay, my dad, I would say that he knew a lot of it by heart. Okay, because he was, the oldest son. He wasn't the oldest child, but he was the oldest son. And like I said, my early childhood, we went to an Orthodox synagogue where the men and women sat separately.
Right.
And so I sort of learned from him.
It's truly amazing that in my house, growing up with my grandparents and even my great grandmother, I remember her. They all used to speak Yiddish, and yet I never ever grasped it.
Well,
Even in my mother's side of the family too. My grand my mother's side, my grandparents, my mother's parents were straight from Poland, but they spoke Yiddish. Very rarely did they speak Polish.
hmm
And once my grandmother did try to teach me Polish, and I kind of grasped it, but not to the point where we could speak it. And I was at the point where now I know why these people are speaking Yiddish when I walk into the room. It's so they can talk
well,
about me. They know.
well, it wasn't talking about you, but I have to tell you, I understand what you're saying. That was why I took German in high school. I took German in high school primarily because my father's mother and father spoke very little English and mainly Yiddish. And I knew that German was akin to Yiddish. Yiddish is like bastardized German. That's really all it
Right.
is.
I know.
The reason that Yiddish came about was because back in the day, and by that I'm talking about in the 1800s, when they were conducting business, they needed a language was that they could converse in, and that's how Yiddish came about. Okay.
Right.
Um, and after I started taking German, I really started to understand what he was saying to me. I loved German when I was in high school. But you're right. There's a resurgence of Yiddish now. Okay. You would think that with the World War II generation dying off, that Yiddish would become a dead language. But the many young people, many Orthodox young people, are starting to relearn Yiddish or learn Yiddish for the first time and keeping it alive, you know. But I mean, I remember my father-in-law used to, when I would speak to him on the phone, he would always ask me a question in Yiddish. Okay, he would say, "Was herrscht bei dir?" What's going on with you? What do you hear? How are things? And I would answer him. But it dawned on me that of his children, and his in-laws, the sons-in-law or daughters-in-law, whatever, uh, he he couldn't speak that because they didn't understand what the hell he was saying.
Hmm.
So it's like I was the only one who really understood.
Well, there's only one thing I understood when my grandfather used to put me to bed. He'd go, "They kept you gay schliffen." I mean, that's the only thing I really remember.
For those of you who don't understand, that's put your head down on the pillow and go to sleep.
What does Vega Hagen mean?
Yeah, a real hard worker.
Know what that means?
Arbit means to work. It's when you're being sarcastic. Okay, when you're being sarcastic. And it's my grandfather had a candy store in East New York, and the neighborhood was changing, obviously, and the people would come in, and that was when they used to have loose cigarettes, and
Hmm.
they'd come in, and they would take two or three cigarettes, and of course they never paid them for it. And my
And
grandfather
that's
would,
where you got your egg creams from.
yeah, that's right, the best neck creams in the world, and the best malteds. The old Hamilton Beach, The old green machine with the aluminum can and everything, the aluminum thing that you put on the. Yeah, those were the best. Let me tell you, you could keep your Cuisinarts and everything else, you know. But anyway,
I think there's a place in Brooklyn that still has it.
I'm digressing. Well, any old-fashioned candy store would have that because that's the best way to make a malted, you know. And my grandfather made it, and he taught my father, and my father taught me, and you know, I love malteds. You know, it has to be Fox's You Bet chocolate syrup. It has to be seltzer from a bottle, not from a squirt bottle, a seltzer bottle.
Oh, the blue squirt bottles.
Yeah, exactly. You know, something about
that you got from the truck.
That's it. When they used to come and deliver it, we used to get, when we lived in Brooklyn,
we get Hammer Cola.
That's right. We used to get seltzer delivered that way. We used to get Drake's cakes delivered that way. All these things. The guy, the old-fashioned salesman would come, and they would ask if you needed anything. You were on the route or whatever. Oh, it was great. It really was. But I thought of you today because
I texted you and told you I was in the emergency room?
No, aside from that, somebody posted on Facebook. They said, remember the day when you got angry at somebody because they read your diary, and now people get angry at you when you don't read what they post on Facebook and comment. Because more than once you would say to me, "Well, didn't you read my post?" My sister says that to me. Okay, she said, "Well, I posted on Facebook today. Didn't you read it?" I said, "Tina, I haven't been on Facebook. I don't live for Facebook, But
yeah, right.
Well, I really don't.
I'm gonna say you're always on Facebook.
Well, I know he is. He's always posting 100 times a day. I'm never
I see you post all the time.
Well, I mean, I do post a lot, I have to say. You know what I do? I like the quotes and the sayings. Some of the things I repost on my timeline, but a lot of the things I copy and I save them because, they really mean a lot. For example, tonight, before I came, somebody had posted, did you see that thing about the dog?
Which one?
Somebody posted, they showed a picture of a dog, and, it really makes you cry because it was like when you adopt a pet and you bring them home, and, it says, don't get angry at me for not sleeping in my bed last night. It's because the day before I slept on a concrete floor. And it said, don't be angry at me if I shy away when you come to touch me. It's just that I've never had anybody, touch me with kindness. Okay? In other words, the dog was abused. And
right.
Don't get angry at me because I peed on your floor. It's just that I still have to get used to living here, and the day before it didn't make a difference where I went. I went everywhere,
Right.
But it was really very touching. And I remember I said that, what'd I say? I grew up in public housing. Okay, and you aren't allowed to have a pet. But the first thing I did when I got married, the first time when we bought a house, even before we had children, we had a dog. Okay, because a dog makes a house a home, and
if you like dogs.
Oh. Well, I mean, you're a cat person. I'm not a cat person.
I used to have dogs, too. I'm just saying, in general, a lot of people don't like dogs for some reason.
Well, a lot of people don't like dogs because they have to be
Number one,
walked.
they're very expensive. They're too expensive to keep.
No, they have to be walked. You have to take care of
That's true.
them, you know, and for two people who are working, it's very difficult to bring a dog into your house because a dog, first of all, needs to have a routine. It has to know that it goes out in the morning. It has to know when it's being fed. Um, and for that reason, a lot of people who live in apartment buildings become cat people because cats are pretty much independent, provided that you're smart enough to change the litter box, you know. But the bottom line is, cats basically, you put the food down, it's cold food, they eat it when they want, you put the water down, whatever it is. Um,
They
and
bathe
like,
themselves.
yeah, pretty much.
We're starting to get the question. I want a pet. I need a pet. My fish is just not a pet enough. I want something I can play with.
Is that what she said?
I want a bunny. Why can't I have a bunny?
A bunny?
I'll take very good care of it.
You don't have a bunny in a. Well, I guess people have a lot of different things, so who knows?
Bunnies, hamsters, people have them.
I told her she's not getting a bunny. If I got her anything, I would get her a turtle. I told her I'd get her an iguana. But she really wants a cat. I can't have a cat because I'm allergic to them.
We had iguanas. We had ferrets. We had snakes.
She also wants a guinea pig or a hamster, and I was like, absolutely not.
Listen, don't get an iguana. They grow very, very, very big.
Yeah.
I'm not getting her anything.
I had an iguana that I finally gave away. He had to be walked on a leash. So big he was.
I had an alligator one.
I remember when Jonathan was playing soccer. That was when we had the ferrets, and a few times we would bring the ferrets down. Oh, people waited for us to come down to the soccer game because they wanted to play. They wanted to touch the ferret. We had one ferret that was great, and you can make nice. You could stroke it, and then the other one we didn't bring down because the other one used to bite and scratch. Okay, but how many people do you know that have ferrets nowadays? Though the one thing I would not have a tarantula. Something about having a spider crawling around the house, that's not for me.
Well, you keep.
We had an alligator.
You had an alligator?
I'm not kidding. We had an alligator. When I first met Scott, he lived in a townhouse with another guy. They were renting this townhouse, and I moved in with them, and we got this alligator from a pet store, and he was really, really tiny. And he grew to be the size of the length of my arm. And we had a full-size basement. We made a pit. We literally took a corner and put plexiglass and made a whole pit like you would see in a zoo. And we put a kiddie pool with a slide. And that's where he lived. And we kept him for, I'd say, a good year or two. And then when we all decided we were going to go our own separate ways. We gave him up. Somebody, I think, took him to the zoo.
Where were you living then?
In Staten Island, in a townhouse.
Oh.
This was like 16 years ago. And they even let me name him. I named him Allie Rex, and he was cute. And let me tell you something. He hissed so. And every time it was time for feeding, they would call me down because they knew I couldn't stand watching it. They would feed him mice and rats.
Yeah.
And you'd watch him do the death roll.
Well, that's what the snake, our snake ate crickets. Okay. If you had a big snake, we didn't have a big snake, but, people that have big snakes would feed the snake mice.
Yep.
And you could actually watch it
Swallow
swallow it and digest it as it goes down.
Right.
You know,